I never told this story publicly before, mostly because I don't want people to think I have lost it. But it's been eating at me for years now, and I need to get it off my chest. So here it is. Take it however you want. This happened to me in the fall of 2019. I was 27 at the time, living in northern Michigan, working as a surveyor for a land development firm. My job took me out into the woods a lot, deep into areas where there were no trails, no people, no cell service, and I loved it for the most part. Always liked being alone in the woods, even as a kid. That October, my boss sent me to a site near Greeley. It was a large tract of forested land some private company had bought to build a vacation cabins. I was supposed to mark the boundaries and take soil samples. Nothing unusual. I got there mid-morning, parked my truck on a gravel logging road, and started hiking with my gear. I had a GPS unit, a machete, a spray paint, and my pack with food, water, and radio, and my sidearm, a .357 revolver. I always carried in remote areas, mostly for the bears. The forest was quiet. I remember thinking how beautiful it was. Gold and orange leaves, soft moist underfoot, that cold snap in the air that tell you winter is coming. I was maybe 2 miles in when I started getting this weird feeling. Hard to describe, like I was being watched, but more than that, like the woods were holding their breath. I brushed it off as paranoia. Happens sometimes when you are out alone. So I kept working, marked a few points, took some notes. Around noon, I sat on a log to eat lunch. That's when I noticed something odd. The forest had gone dead quiet. No birds, no wind, not even squirrels, just nothing. I was scanning the tree lines. Then I heard a snap. I whipped around. Behind me, maybe 50 yards away, something had stepped on a branch. I scanned the trees again. Nothing. Could have been a deer, maybe a black bear even. I stood up, slowly, hand resting on the grip of my revolver. Hello? I called out. Anyone there? No answer. No movements. Just stillness of the forest. I stood there for a while, heart thudding in my chest, trying to convince myself it was nothing. Eventually, I turned back, packed up, and kept going. But the feeling didn't go away. About 30 minutes later, I came across something strange. A tree, that's a big one, maybe 16 feet tall, was snapped clean in half, like someone had twisted. The break was about 10 feet up. Now I have seen storm damage and rot, but this looked different. It looked deliberate. There were deep claw marks in the bark, 4 of them running down the trunk, each about an inch wide. at least a foot long. I crouched and touched them. They looked fresh. That's when I heard the breathing. A low, raspy, closer to me. I turned around and I swear to God, about 30 feet away, partially hidden behind some pines, was this thing. I thought it was a bear at first, big, with dark fur, hunched over. But then it stood up, not on all fours, on two legs. It was tall, had to be at least 7 feet, maybe even more. Muscular, with broad shoulders and long arms that ended in claws. Its head was wolf-like, long snout, pointed ears, yellow eyes that looked straight through me. And those eyes, they weren't animal eyes. They had awareness in them, intelligence, hate. I didn't move. I couldn't. I was frozen in place. My brain just shut down. The thing tilted its head, sniffed the air, and let out this deep, guttural growl that I felt in my bones. That snapped me out of it. I drew my gun, aimed, and fired few shots. The shots echoed through the woods. That thing didn't even flinch. It just ducked behind those trees and vanished. I stood there, shaking, the gun still raised, waiting for it to come back. It didn't. But I didn't wait around either. I grabbed my gear and ran. I don't even remember half the run back to the truck. I just knew I didn't stop until I locked myself inside and peeled out the tire spinning in the gravel. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my apartment, lights on, gun on the table, jumping at every sound I heard. I kept telling myself I must have hallucinated or something. Maybe the stress, the isolation, or something weird in the air. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't convince myself that it wasn't real. The thing was there, and I saw it. And also, it saw me. The next morning, I called in sick. I couldn't go back, not yet. But I knew I had to go eventually. My job depended on it, and my gear was still out there. I told myself I'd go back during the day, just quick enough to grab my stuff. No surveying, no exploring, in and out. I finally forced myself to drive back. I bought a friend. I didn't tell him everything, just that I had a close call with some wildlife, needed help retrieving my equipment. My friend is the kind of guy who doesn't spook easy. He was former military, level-headed, the kind of guy you want watching your back in the woods. We got there around noon. Sun was high, sky was clear, and the birds was chirping. None of that dead silence I had heard before. For a moment, I actually felt stupid. Maybe it was just a beer. Maybe I had overreacted back then. We hiked cautiously, weapons ready, but nothing felt out of place. My gear was still where I left it, scattered around the log where I had eaten lunch. Nothing disturbed, no tracks, no blood, no claw marked trees, nothing. I almost started laughing. Maybe I had imagined the whole damn thing. We were packing up when my friend pointed something out. About 15 feet from my gear, just barely noticeable in the fallen trees, was a print, a footprint, but not a human one. It was long, wide, with 5 toes like marks, but way too big for any person. Maybe 16 inches long and deep. Whatever made it had some weight to it. My friend crouched and inspected. That ain't a bear, he said, or a wolf. Hell, it almost looked like a person's foot, but something wrong. He looked up to me. This what you saw? I nodded. He didn't laugh. He didn't call me crazy either. He just stood up and said, let's get the hell out of here. And we did. We didn't talk much on the way back. Once we reached the truck, my friend lit a cigarette, hand shaking a bit. That told me everything I need to know. If it had rattled him, it wasn't just in my imagination. That night, he called me, said he had done some digging. You ever heard of the Michigan Dogman? He asked. I never heard that before. He explained, said it was a local legend, sightings going back to the 1800s, described as a tall, canine-looking creature that walked on 2 legs, glowing yellow eyes, terrifying howl. Seen mostly in the northern woods, places like Grayling, exactly where we have been. I didn't sleep much after that call either. In the days that followed, I started hearing more stories once I knew what to look for. Reddit threads, old newspaper articles, local forums, people describing the same thing, a huge upright dog-like creature seen near rural roads or deep in the forest. Most were brushed off as a hoaxes or hallucinations, but some had that ring of the truth. That look in the eye of someone who had seen something they wished they didn't. I started to wonder how many others had seen it, but stay quiet, like me, like my friend. A week later, I quit my job, not because of fear exactly, but because I couldn't keep going out there, not after that. I couldn't look at the woods the same way. They used to feel like home, peaceful, alive. Now they felt haunted. I moved south, closer to the city, took up work that kept me indoors. Concrete, street lights, people around. I miss the woods sometimes, but not enough to go back. Sometimes I still dream about the thing, standing there, watching me, that look in its eyes. Not just an animal instinct, but recognition. Like it knew me, it wanted me to come back. At some nights, when the wind howls, just right I swear I can hear it. Far off, but close enough to know it's still out there, waiting for me. Far off, but close enough to know it's still out there, waiting for me. I never believed in monsters. I didn't buy into ghost stories or urban legends. Growing up in the Midwest, I was surrounded by woods, dense forests, quiet lakes, and miles of untouched land. And while they were beautiful, I had always approached them with respect, not fear. But something happened to me on one of my solo hiking trip that changed all that. I can't explain it, but I knew what I saw, and I knew it was real. It all started when I decided to go for a solo camping trip. I needed some time away from the noise of the city, a chance to reconnect with the nature and escape the distractions of modern life. I had been on camping trips before, but this one would be different. This time, I was going to hike deeper into the woods that I never had before gone into. It was late November, and the cold had settled into the air, but I didn't mind that. I packed my gear, a tent, sleeping bag, essential foods, and a knife, and set off. The sun had already dipped below the horizon by the time I reached the spot that I planned to camp. I wasn't exactly sure where I was. I hadn't marked the trail. I was far from any kind of established campsite. But that's the part of the thrill. There's something about being completely alone, surrounded by nothing but trees and silence, that makes everything feel sharper. I had no phone, no GPS, just the sound of the crunching leaves beneath my boots and the occasional crack of a distant branch, and the usual forest sounds. The campsite was by a small creek, the water rushing over rocks, providing a peaceful soundtrack to my solitude. The trees around me were sparse. Most had shed their leaves already, leaving bare branches reaching into the night sky like skeletal hands. It felt empty, devoid of life. A quiet, still coldness hung in the air, a sharp contrast to the noise of the city I had left behind. As I set up my camp, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right around me. The wind was unusually quiet, the woods unnaturally still. Usually at night, in the woods, there's the sound of critters moving about, the rustling of animals in the underbrush, the chirp of insects, and the distant call of an owl. But that night, all of that was missing. The air was thick, almost suffocating. I tried to shrug it off at first. The fire I started flickered in the dark, the warmth offering some comfort. I ate a quick meal of hydrated food, watching the flames dance in the fire pit. But still, I couldn't shake the unease crawling at the edge of my mind. Then came the noise. At first, I thought it was the wind or some animal moving through the woods, but the sound was wrong. It was soft, shuffling, like something dragging itself across the ground. I strained my ears, trying to locate the source, but the noise seemed to come from all around me. It wasn't the light scurrying of small animals. It was something heavy and slow, something much larger than a deer. My heart rate picked up as the sound grew closer. The darkness around the campsite deepened, and the shadows shifted. I told myself it was just an animal, a bird, maybe or a large wolf, but deep down I knew it wasn't. It couldn't be. It doesn't sound like it. After looking around, I stood up, gripping my flashlight, my fingers trembling as I shined it around the clearing. Nothing, just trees out there. But I could feel it, the presence, like something was watching me from beyond the light. The hair on my hand stood up, and my breath caught in my chest. The shuffling stopped, and in the eerie silence that followed, I heard something like a low and guttural groan. It was barely audible, but unmistakable at the same time. I froze in my place, my flashlight shaking in my hand. It didn't sound like any animal I knew. It was more like a person, but wrong, twisted. After a few moments later, the sound came again, but closer this time. And then I saw it. It was on the edge of the firelight at first, a tall, dark shape that moved with an unnatural grace. My heart skipped a beat as I realized it wasn't an animal. It was humanoid, but there was something deeply wrong with it. It stood at least 8 feet tall, its form skeletal and gaunt, and on its head it had something like antlers. Its limbs were long and twisted, joints bending at angles they shouldn't. The body was covered in patches of matted fur, but in the places where the fur had worn away, I could see the pale, sickly skin beneath it, stretched tight over the bones. Its face was the worst part. It had the face of a man, but it wasn't human. The eyes were wide, black and empty, no pupils at all, just hollow pits staring into me. Its mouth was wide, impossibly wide, its lip pulled back, revealing rows of sharp, jagged teeth, each one yellowed and broken. The teeth looked like they were made from bones, not flesh. I could see its breath, a thick, misty cloud in the cold air, as it exhaled in the shallow, rasping gates. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. It was like my body was locked in place, frozen in terror. It didn't make any noise at first, just stared at me, its eyes dark and unblinking. Then it tilted its head, slowly and deliberately, like it was studying me, like it was savoring my fear. Then the voice came. It wasn't a voice in the traditional sense. It was more like a whisper mixed with growling. The sound so deep that I could feel it in my chest. It wasn't saying anything I could understand, just guttural, inhuman sounds coming out from his mouth. But the worst part was the tone. The voice was hungry. It made my skin crawl. It was as if this thing had been waiting for something to wander into its territory. It took a step forward towards me, and that was when my survival instincts kicked in. I grabbed my knife, though I knew it wouldn't much of a help against something like that. I didn't even think. I turned and bolted into the woods, running as fast as I could. I didn't care where I was going. I just needed to get away from the thing. The sound of its breath, wet and ragged, followed me through the woods, growing closer with every step I took. My feet stumbled over roots and rocks, my body screaming in pain as I pushed myself forward. but I couldn't stop. The woods seemed endless, the trees stretching on and on in every direction. I ran for what it felt like hours, until my legs felt like they might give up. My breath was ragged, my heart pounding in my chest, but the sound of its pursuit never stopped. It was always there, just behind me, its step so heavy that I could feel the ground tremble. And then I heard it, the screech. It wasn't a scream, it wasn't a howl, it was something worse, a high pitched, bone chilling screech that sounded like nails on a chalkboard, but deeper, coming from the very bolts of hell. It filled the air, vibrating through my bones, and I thought I might collapse from the terror of it. I had to get out from there. I had to survive this. Finally, after what felt like eternity, I stumbled out of the forest into a clearing. I could barely see, my flashlight long gone, but I kept running. I didn't know how far I ran, but eventually I hit the road. Then I saw headlights passing by, and without thinking, I jumped in front of a car, waving my arms frantically. The driver slammed on the brake, staring at me in shock. I don't even know what I looked like. Wild-eyed, covered in dirt, and panicking. But I didn't care. I just needed to get away from there. They gave me a ride to the nearest town, but I knew they didn't believe me. But I can blame them. It was unreal what just happened to me. I just told them to take me to a motel. After reaching there, I locked myself in a room, shaking the adrenaline still pumping through my veins. I never went back to those woods. I don't know what I saw that night. It wasn't a bear or a wolf or anything I could explain. It was something ancient, something hungry. A Wendigo maybe? Or something else. I don't know. But I will never forget the way it looked at me, the way it moved, and the hunger in its eyes. So, if you are out there in the woods, alone, and you hear something dragging itself towards you, don't just wait for something to show up. Just run. Be careful out there. Hey guys, I want to share something scary that happened to me. Last month, I went to visit my cousin, Jeremy. He lives out on the Navajo reservation in New Mexico. I haven't seen him in years, and I figured it would be a good time to see him and escape from the city for a weekend. You know, clear my head and to reconnect with the family. He lives in a tiny one-story house way out in the middle of nowhere. The nearest neighbor is like a half a mile away. No cell signal, no street lights, just a plain land and a big sky, desert brush. It was just peaceful. But there is a eerie feel to it. I can't lie about that. The first night was cool. We sat around a fire in his backyard, just talking, drinking a few beers, laughing about things. But after a while, Jeremy got real quiet, like something was bothering him. He walked out into the darkness for a long time before saying, "You ever heard of a Skinwalker?" I shook my head. "No, what's that?" He looked over at me. "Seriously? A Skinwalker?" That got my attention. Now I had heard the word before, mostly from creepy internet stories or late night Reddit threads. I thought it was just urban legend stuff, but Jeremy wasn't joking when he asked me. He started telling me story about it. Not the made up kind either. Real stuff that's happened to people he knows. The people who lives here. He started the stories. People hearing voices outside their windows at night. Animals walking like humans. People getting sick or disappearing after strange sightings. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Don't whistle at night. And don't go outside alone either. And if you see something that looks like human but ain't acting right, don't say anything. Just get inside, close the window, and never mind it." I laughed it off. I thought he was just trying to freak me out or something. But now, I wish I had listened to him. That night, I had a hard time sleeping. This place was dead quiet. No cars, no wind, not even crickets. It felt unnatural. Around 2:30 a.m., I decided to step outside to get some air. The sky was full of stars, and a cold breeze ran through my hair. I was stood there, looking at the sky, staring into the vast darkness. Then I heard footsteps, crunching slowly over gravel, coming from the direction of the fence that circled his yard from the desert. At first, I thought it was a stray dog, but when I looked up, I saw something standing upright in the darkness. It was tall and thin, way too tall. Its limbs were long, like stretched out. Its skin looked off, like didn't fit, and almost grey. Its head was slightly tilted, like it was studying me. I froze, watching it staring at me. Then it moved, not walking, jerking, like it didn't quite know how to use its body. I backed slowly toward the kitchen door, trying not to make a sound. Just before I went inside, it let out this sound that I will never forget. Not a howl, not a growl. It was like a voice trying to speak through broken glass. I slammed the door and locked it. I didn't even sleep at all night. I just lying on my bed, looking out the window. I saw the thing one more time. I turned around and shut my eyes hardly as I can, thinking it was just my mind playing tricks on me. I tried to sleep so hard. I didn't even know when did I fall asleep. When I opened my eye, it was the next morning. When I woke up, I told Jeremy what I saw last night. He just nodded like he already knew. "You weren't supposed to see it," he said. "Now it's no you." He gave me some ashes mixed with crushed herbs and told me to keep it in my pocket. He didn't say what it was and what it I need it for and what it's used for. But he was dead serious. Don't go alone outside tonight. No matter what you hear or what you see. Just lay on your bed and try to sleep. Hours passed. We had dinner and couple of beers. But we were not laughing anymore. There was a silence in the room. After that, we went into our rooms to get some rest and sleep. I was laying in the bed, waiting for the sleep to come. Then it started again around 2 a.m. I was wide awake when I heard something brush against the window. I looked at the window, staring at it for some minutes. Then a knock. 3 slowly heavy knocks on the glass, like it wanted me to come and see what it was. I stayed still. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. Then I heard something whispering my name. But it wasn't Jeremiah's voice. It wasn't even close. It sounded broken, like someone trying to speak after having their throat worn out. Luke. It dragged the name out again and again, each time getting closer to the front door. Sometimes later, I heard scratching, not at the bottom of the door, higher, like something was standing on 2 legs, clawing the wood like a bored cat. I covered my ears and I closed my eyes. I repeated Jeremy's prayer over and over again, even though I didn't know what it meant. Finally, after what felt like hours, it stopped. I covered my ears and my eyes and I repeated that prayer Jeremy told me to say it. And I whispered it over and over again, even though I didn't know what it really meant. Finally, after what felt like hours, it stopped. When the sun came up, Jeremy walked outside. I followed him. We found claw marks on the door, on the window, and the huge prints in the dirt. Not paw prints, bare feet, human-shaped but wrong. The toes were too long. The heels didn't look right. They were too deep, like something heavy made them. Jeremy burned sage around the house. He kept chanting the old time. I didn't ask what he was saying. I just stayed close and watched all things he done. After all this happened, I want to leave right then. Packed up and go. But Jeremy told me, if you leave now, it might follow you. I asked him what the hell that thing was. He looked tired, more tired than I had ever seen him before. They were witches, he said, evil ones. They gave up being human a long time ago. They were skins of animals or people. They can't come in unless you invite them or you give them something of yourself. I remember the moment I locked eyes with it. Jeremy looked at me and said, that was enough. The rest of the day I stayed inside. Jeremy kept every curtain drawn. No music, no TV, just completely silence. That night was quiet, too quiet. No knocks, no whispers, until just before the sunrise. I woke up to the sound of something brushing against the wall outside. Not walking, circling. Then it stopped by my window. I heard a knock, but just one this time. Then a voice, calm, soft, almost human. Then it whispered, come home. I stared in the bed, frozen. My eyes were wide open until the sky turned grey. I left the next evening. When I was ready to leave, Jeremy gave me a pouch of ash and herbs to keep with me. He told me to not stop until I got home. Not even for gas. Just drive straight and don't look back, no matter what I see. The drive was uneventful until I almost out of New Mexico. It was beginning to get dark. That's when I saw it again. Standing on the side of the highway, in the distance, still as a stone, watching my car pass. I glanced a look and I pushed down the accelerator hard as I can and speed away from them. When I finally got back to my apartment, I felt some relief for a while. But then, one night, things started happening again. I had heard soft tapping on my windows, even though I live on the third floor. Sometimes I had heard my name being called in the hallway, even when no one else was home at the time. Hope you guys like this video. If you did, please consider subscribing to this channel. Enable the bell icon so you don't miss new uploads. And also check out other videos in this channel too. Like them and share them. And if you have any suggestions or any improvements I need to make in this channel, please post them in the comment section. Till next time, this is Malayali Wendigo. Bye.